Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon you. Good evening and a very warm welcome to our Peace Conference this year held remotely by Zoom. Thank you very much indeed to all of our guests and speakers for joining. My name is Salim Ahmed and I'm your host for this evening. I'm delighted to say that we have a very varied and interesting program with multi-faith speeches, which I hope you'll find enjoyable and thought-provoking. We're also going to show you some videos about our community, if you're not familiar with the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in Islam, and also a couple of videos about our mosque, which some of you will have visited. The theme for this evening is achieving peace in the face of a global pandemic. And once again, we're very grateful to all of you for joining us on this Saturday evening. This program is being broadcast on YouTube, and it is going to be recorded on YouTube. Unless, however, you are taking an active part, for those of you who are joining by Zoom, and all of our speakers and guests are joining hopefully by Zoom, please mute your microphones. If I can ask you, if you're not taking an active part in the proceedings, could you please mute your microphones? If you have any difficulties, we'll do our best to try and assist you to rejoin. As you will know, if you've joined our functions before, it is customary for us to begin with recitation of the Holy Quran. And if I can invite Mr. Malik Mashood Rihan, please, to recite a few verses from the Holy Quran. Mr. Rihan, please.
Assalamu alaikum. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الذين آمنوا وتطمئن قلوبهم بذكر الله. ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات طوبى لهم وحسن مآب.
Thank you very much indeed, Jazakallah. Can I please invite Mr. Urhan Ahmed to give us an English translation of the verses just recited, please? Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the accursed. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful. Those who believe and whose hearts find comfort in the remembrance of Allah. It is in the remembrance of Allah that hearts can find comfort. Those who believe and do good works, happiness shall be theirs and an excellent place of return. Chapter 13, verse 29 and 30.
Jazakallah. Thank you very much indeed, Urhan. Can I now please request the president of the Leicester branch of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Mr. Ibrahim Bonsu Saib, to deliver a welcome address. By way of introduction, Ibrahim Saib was born in Ghana. He moved to London in the year 2000. And he moved to Leicester in late 2002. He is married and has 4 children. He has a degree in mental health nursing from the University of Derby and also holds a postgraduate certificate in non-medical prescribing from De Montfort University. He currently works as an independent nurse prescriber for the Leicestershire Drug and Alcohol Service called Turning Point. In his spare time, Ibrahim enjoys reading and loves doing charity work. Can I please invite Mr. Ibrahim Bonsu to deliver the welcome address?
Thank you, Mr. Salim Ahmed. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, ever merciful. The right worshipful, the Lord Mayor of Leicester, Councillor Annette Ben, my Lord Lieutenant, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum. May the peace of Allah Almighty be upon you all. We are highly honored to have the keynote speaker with us, Mr. Mohammed Ibrahim Iklaf, Director of Outreach, Ahmadiyya Muslim Community, United Kingdom. On behalf of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community Leicester and the Regional President, I welcome you all to the Leicester Peace Conference 2021, aimed at achieving inner peace in the face of a global pandemic. A theme which I believe continues to bother mankind in these unprecedented times of global rampant spread of COVID-19. You might not be going out tonight with friends and families for obvious reasons. However, the virtual world, which has become our dear friend on a daily basis, continues to keep us busy wherever we find ourselves. Therefore, to take out time out of your busy schedule to join us tonight is evidence of your commitment to peace, which starts from the inner self. Exactly a year ago, some of us participating in this peace conference today were gathered under the roof of our mosque, Baitul Ikram, on 95 Avenue Road Extension, Clarendon, Leicester. Little did we know that in a year's time, we wouldn't be sitting together under one roof, listening to speeches and having a meal together. But that's the situation in this strange world that we live in. As the saying goes, man proposes and God disposes. Nevertheless, let's continue to make the best out of the situation. And hopefully, by God's grace, we will be back together sitting under the roof of 95 Avenue Road Extension, Baitul Ikram, home of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community, Leicester, in a year's time. The Ahmadiyya Muslim Community is a revivalist movement in Islam, founded in 1889 by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian, on whom be peace, who claimed to be the long-awaited reformer and promised Messiah, prophesied by all great religions to appear in the latter days. After his demise, the community, under divine guidance, has followed a system of censorship called Khilafat or Caliphate. And we are now in the era of the fifth Caliph, His Holiness, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmed, may Allah Almighty be his helper. Champion and beacon of peace, who resides here in the United Kingdom. Our community's motto is love for all, hatred for none. The Ahmadiyya Muslim Association is a leader in fundraising activities all over the world, and Leicester here is not an exception. We have raised for all the major British-based charities such as Macmillan Cancer Research, Save the Children, the Royal British Legion, just to mention a few, and other local-based charities. Our charity wing, Humanity First, has been making wonders all over the world in disaster relief and providing amenities such as clean drinking water in poor developing communities around the world. Our annual charity work, as I've mentioned, which took place here in Leicester in April 2002. And a total of 50,000 as at that time was raised for the cause. Our local auxiliary organizations, the Male Youth Wing, which is AMYA, the Ladies and the Elderly Men Association, continue to play their part in raising funds for the needy in society and also donating to food banks. This has continued throughout this pandemic. We hope to work in the nearby future with other local charities, such as the Right Worshipful Lord Mayor's supported charities, the People's Dispensary for Sick Animals, PDSA, and the Air Ambulance. Distinguished guests, we hold peace conference to highlight the precarious state of the world, and we believe peace starts from the individual. So the reason for our theme tonight, giving inner peace in the face of a global pandemic. Honored guests, I hope you enjoy tonight's peace conference and find it beneficial. Once again, I would like to welcome you all to tonight's peace conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Ibrahim. We're now going to show you a short video about our community and some information about our leadership, which is a system known as Khilafat. So if I can ask the technical team, please, to queue up the video. Thank you.
Islam requires us to bandage the wounds of those in pain, to remove the anxieties of those who are distressed, and to show love and compassion without any desire for recognition or worldly reward. Thus, wherever any person is suffering or facing cruelty, it is your duty to be there to help and support them. Bless all my sins. Pray, forgive me my sins, for there is none else except Thee to forgive. Amen.
Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad is the present head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, the most dynamic international community within Islam. The community was established by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad in Qadian, a small and remote village in India. He claimed to be the expected reformer of the latter days, the one awaited by all major world religions. Founded in 1889, the community has continued to spread throughout the world, flourishing under caliphate, the system of spiritual leadership established after the demise of the Holy Founder. The current successor of this movement, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, continues the work of the Holy Founder to revive the spiritual and moral state of mankind. The movement embodies the benevolent message of Islam in its pristine purity, a movement that preaches peace, universal brotherhood, and submission to the will of God. Ahmadi Muslims have earned the distinction and reputation of being a law-abiding and peaceful community. Within a century, the movement has reached all the corners of the earth and has been recognized and praised by the global community.
It is an honor to address you because as a campaigner for human rights and religious freedom, I deeply admire your principles of equality, freedom, and respect, and your commitment to tolerance and social peace. You believe in religious freedom, but are denied the right to profess your faith and risk prosecution if you defend yourselves. You want to live alongside those of other confessions in mutual respect, but you are demonized, ostracized, and marginalized.
That on behalf of all the guests here this evening, I say a big thank you to the Ahmadiyya community for this initiative, which is quite unusual and different and imaginative, bringing together people of different religions, different faiths, people in the public and private sector.
Wherever the movement has been established, it endeavors to exert a constructive influence of Islam through social projects, educational institutes, health services, Islamic publications.
I would like to pay an additional tribute to the work being done by Ahmadis in raising standards in Africa and particularly in education.
So just on behalf of myself, on behalf of the British Legion, and on behalf of the tens of thousands of people in the armed forces and their dependents and families, I'd just like to say a huge thank you for everything that you've been able to do for my organisation. And thank you.
The Ahmadi Muslim community have managed to raise £1 million for charities around the country and beyond. First of all, to support work in Burkina Faso, for instance, but also much closer to home, the £500,000 that was mentioned in relation to the Royal British Legion. A fantastic sum raised for a fantastic charity.
I think the charity Walk for Peace is very special in so many ways. To get so many people together to walk for peace and to raise money for so many charities in the exemplary way that the Ahmadi Muslim community does is really something special. I've never seen anything quite like it. I think it's probably unique.
Faith. And I stand here in solidarity with you because I believe that the best war against ideology that aims to promote fear is to stand in solidarity with those who promote peace, who embrace love for all and hatred for none. And I have to say that every time a tragedy happens where someone uses the name of God, Allah Akbar, as they commit an act of terrorism, I grieve at the defilement of God's name to promote such murder. And I think and hope of the promotion of peace that comes when your community says Allah Akbar, because God truly is great and He is a God of peace, and you are a symbol of it.
I have always personally been inspired by the work of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in promoting peace, love for our country, and in challenging extremism.
I'm so proud that the Borough of Merton is the UK and worldwide headquarters of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, which makes an incredible contribution to the richness and diversity of our community. It is a community that contributes greatly to this country, and your belief in peace and religious tolerance is an example to us all, as you would expect from a community whose motto is love for all, hatred for none.
I think he is acquiring, with the passage of time, very considerable stature, not just obviously within your own community, but outside of it. And he's done that by tremendous hard work and by constantly repeating some very basic themes about Islam and its interpretation and how it should be a force for good in society.
Persecuted for your beliefs, jailed for your faith, and exiled from your homeland, but you refuse to turn to bitterness or vengeance. Instead, His Holiness has emerged as a leader of wisdom and compassion, a champion of nonviolence among nations.
No society can truly succeed unless it guarantees the rights of all of its peoples, including religious minorities, whether they're Ahmadiyya, Muslims in Pakistan, or Baha'i in Iran, or Coptic Christians in Egypt.
I would like very much to confirm my support for the work that His Holiness and the Ahmadiyya Muslim community are doing, particularly in London.
Even I didn't know when
Thank you very much indeed. I hope you found that video informative. The clip with Boris Johnson was before he became Prime Minister. It just goes to show what happens when people associate with our community. They do rise to very high office. Can I first now introduce or explain the guests who are kindly joining us for this evening, just to introduce those for a few minutes, if I may, please. First of all, we'd like to welcome the Vice-Chancellor of De Montfort University, Professor Katie Normington. I hope Professor Normington is able to join us this evening. Professor Normington was recently appointed as the Vice-Chancellor of De Montfort University from her previous role as Deputy Principal at the University of London. Prior to her present role, Professor Normington was Dean of Arts and Social Sciences and had responsibility for equality and diversity. Her research focuses on theatre history, in particular medieval English drama and contemporary theatre practice, and she has published a number of books in this field. We're also delighted to welcome back Councillor Roger Dunton, MBE. Councillor Dunton has been Liberal Democrats Ward Councillor for the Welland Ward in Market Harborough for many years, and he has recently been awarded the MBE on the Queen's Honours List. Councillor Dunton attended our peace conference last year. That was before he was awarded the MBE, so it just goes to show you the benefit of attending these conferences. Next is Councillor Jeff Whittle, who is from the Knighton Ward in Leicester. Councillor Whittle has a strong personal commitment to diversity and social justice, which has inspired him to be politically active and active in the community for some 45 years. He has worked as a science researcher, a self-employed lecturer and tutor in both the public and the private sectors, and he has been a trade unionist all his working life. He is a parent governor after a school homework on an after-school homework club. He undertakes work at a local food bank and also engages in very worthy services of drop-ins for senior servants. He's now retired, but enjoys working as an environmental volunteer in parks and waterways across Leicestershire. We're also delighted that we are joined by Narendra Wagela from the BAPS community temple in Gypsy Lane in Leicester, which of course is one of the largest Hindu temples in the country. Narendra has worked as a trustee board member of several organizations, a key member of various organizations in Leicestershire, and has spent 31 years as a senior project manager. He has played and has the difficult objective of keeping them away from drugs, street crime, smoking, and alcohol. We're pleased to be joined by Mr. Syed Imtiaz Ahmed, who is the regional president of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association. Mr. Ahmed is an accountant by profession, and he studied accountancy and finance in London, trained with a number of international firms before setting up his own successful practice in the West Midlands. He serves in a number of capacities for the community and has from a young age has held a number of senior positions and is currently the regional president of the Midlands branch of our community. Also joining us this evening is Professor Ruth Young, who is Professor of Archaeology at the University of Leicester. Professor Young came to Leicester in the year 2000, having completed her PhD on archaeological work in the former northwest frontier of Pakistan. And she did that work in the University of Bradford. She's worked in South Asia and parts of the Middle East and is currently focusing on the heritage and historical contemporary archaeology. We're delighted to be joined by Dr. David Wilkin from the University of Leicester. Dr. Wilkin holds an MSc in Criminology and Criminal Justice and a PhD at the University of Leicester, the latter focusing on hate crimes on disabled people occurring on UK public transport. David has spent over 30 years in various roles within the public transport sector, from being a train driver to incident manager and latterly in senior management roles. We're pleased to be joined once again by Reverend Tom Wilson, who has joined us, I think, on the vast majority of the functions that we have held. Reverend Tom Wilson is a director at the St. Philip's Centre, which promotes the study and engagement of multi-faith societies by enabling communities and individuals to encounter one another in meaningful ways. Tom served as vicar of St. James and Christchurch from 2012 until 2015, when he began his present position. He is a skilled writer with publications ranging from academic monographs to press releases and popular fiction. Tom has attended a number of our functions and has spoken at very many of them, so we are delighted to welcome him today. Also joining Reverend Tom Wilson is his colleague, Mr. Riaz Ravit, who is a Deputy Director at the St. Philip's Centre. Riaz has contributed to many national initiatives, including the Prime Minister's Extremism Task Force, the Commission on Religion and Religious Belief in Public Life, the Department for Communities in the local government, work on integration, and he has pioneered an organization called Catalyst, a national young adults interfaith and leadership group. In 2013, Riaz was conferred a British Empire Medal by the Queen for services to interfaith understanding. And later that year, he was named Alumnus of the Year by De Montfort University for uniting different cultures, races, and religions. In 2010, he was the first recipient of the Leicestershire First Citizenship Award, and in 2015 became a Deputy Lieutenant of Leicestershire. Riaz is a dedicated Liverpool fan. We certainly hope that his team can avoid relegation this season. Next, we're delighted to be joined once again by a very dear friend, Resham Singh Sandhu, MBE, who was made an MBE in 2002. Resham came to Leicestershire from Punjab over 38 years ago. He's a former chairman of the Leicester Council of Faiths. In 2006, he was commissioned Deputy Lord Lieutenant for Leicestershire, and he has also had the honour of being the first Sikh to be the High Sheriff of Leicestershire. And what I didn't discover until Resham turned up at one of my tribunal hearings one day is that the High Sheriff of Leicestershire can choose to sit alongside the judge in any court that he chooses. He cannot make the decision, probably wouldn't want to, but in that role, he can basically walk into any court and say, right, I'm going to sit next to you, Judge. So Resham has had that great honour. He is our very dear friend who has probably attended nearly all of our functions, and we're delighted that he is able to join us. Can we also please give thanks and acknowledge two officers from the local authorities in this region. Mr. George Ballantyne from Leicester City Council has joined us, who is the Interfaith Forum lead, and he has also been a member of the Leicester City Council Standing Advisory Council on Religious Education amongst many of his functions, and we have been delighted to be joined by him, and indeed we have attended a number of meetings as part of the community which George has organised. So thank you very much indeed for joining us tonight, George. And we're also joined by Miss Veronica Quintine. I hope I pronounced her surname correctly. She is the Community Engagement Officer from Oadby and Wigston Borough Council. And she has also been an Equalities and Consultation Support Officer with Birmingham City Council. Not able to join us, but unfortunately not able to join us this evening, but we do have a message from Sir Peter Soulsby, the City Mayor, who has written to say that he is not able to join us on this occasion, but he sends his very best wishes in what he says has been a very difficult year, which is something I think we can all agree with. So thank you very much indeed to all of the guests. Forgive me if I haven't mentioned any that are here and have been invited, but thank you very much indeed once again for joining us, and we hope that you will enjoy the rest of the programme. Next, we have the first of our speeches from the invited guests. Can I just check the Lord Mayor is able to see and hear us?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Well, can I welcome the Lord Mayor once again, the Right Worshipful Councillor Annette Byrne. And I'll give you a bit of an introduction, although one is not needed for anybody who lives in Leicester. The Lord Mayor very kindly attended our peace conference last year, very different affair, of course, and we're delighted that she is able to join us again on this occasion. Councillor Byrne was born in Belgrave. She spent her entire life in Leicester. She's a strong Labour Party supporter. She stood for election in the City Council elections in 2007 when she was elected for the Abbey ward. She is a fierce advocate for Leicester and has worked tremendously hard in the community to help local people from all different faiths and communities. In the 1980s, she set up a youth club for young boys and girls, which is still running today. She has two particular charities of interest: the PDSA, the People's Dispensary for Sick Animals, which offers low cost and free veterinary services, and also the Air Ambulance Service, which provides helicopters in times of rapid response for trauma and medical emergencies. Thank you very much indeed, Lord Mayor, for joining us once again. And if I can invite you to address us, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to join you at your virtual peace conference. This evening, we will be considering how to achieve inner peace during a global pandemic and how faith can strengthen us through difficult times. The last 12 months have been challenging, and the impact of the virus has been difficult to comprehend, as we have tried to come to terms with the disruption, suffering, and the loss of so many lives. Many businesses and individuals face financial difficulties, and we have all experienced a massive reduction in social interaction. But many members of our community who are lonely or afraid have suffered too. And it has been uplifting to see many local people come forward to offer support and assistance in so many ways. Faith organisations have been working across the city and county to help in practical ways, but they are also there to help with our spiritual needs. Whatever your beliefs may be, many will find hope through prayer, and faith can lead us to find the inner peace that will strengthen us through difficult times and despair. We have all been shocked by the pandemic and have missed seeing our families and friends for long periods of time. This has been particularly hard on the elderly, and we are encouraged to see that members of the care community are now enjoying limited time with family members. It is, however, also important to care for our own well-being, and we aren't yet fully aware of the mental and emotional impact this may have on all of us. In our search for inner peace and tranquility, we will, I am sure, find what we need to help us cope. And I'm very much looking forward to learning more about this. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Lord Mayor. Thank you very much once again for joining us on our peace conference. Of course, you do realise that we will expect you to be here next year as well, God willing.
God willing, I will be.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Next, we're going to have a short video on the by way of an introduction to the Leicester branch of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. You've seen something about the national and international side of the community. So we're just going to have a short video now about the Leicester branch. If I can ask the technical team to start that, please.
Leicester, a city that celebrates its multi-ethnic or multicultural heritage. Multi-ethnic or multicultural heritage. It's the 10th largest city in the UK, with more than 329,000 people. A city where diversity is regarded as their major strength.
So the first time I said, I want to celebrate Diwali and the Eid party. If we have Christmas party, why can't we have they refused. But slowly things begin to work. The landscape has changed. What it is, there is more acceptance on behalf of the host communities. They were very good that time as well, majority of them, they accepted people. And now the landscape, Leicester has become the most diverse and multicultural city.
Leicester's a very diverse city. In fact, it's one of these so-called minority-majority cities where the ethnic minority population exceeds the indigenous population.
Leicester is the first city in the UK where the white population is now a minority. We also have a road called Narber Road, which was recently described as the most ethnically diverse road in the whole of the UK. We have Polish restaurants next to African shops, next to Greek cafes, next to you name it. We have a whole plethora of different countries of the world, all within a 1 or 2 mile radius.
During these 40 years, I've seen lots of changes in Leicester. When I first arrived here in 1972, it was just before the influx of East African Asians into the city. which added to the diversity of Leicester. And Leicester now is one of the most multicultural cities in Europe.
It's been my home for all of my life, and I feel a very close connection to this city.
पहले तो कुछ अर्सा में पता नहीं था, फिर आहिस्ता पता लगा कि वहाँ भी एक अहमदी हैं, वहाँ भी अहमदी साहब हैं, वहाँ भी कोई हैं, तो फिर आहिस्ता आहिस्ता हमने मिलना शुरू किया। लेकिन ग़ालिबन 80 में हमारा पहला सेंटर पहले ऑर्गेनाइज्ड जमात हुई।
Mr. Muhammad Ibrahim Khokar Saab was voted in as the first president of the Leicester Jamaat. Ibrahim Khokar Saab remained president for about 2 to 3 years until 1983, when my father, the late Mirza Muhammad Akram, became the president of the local Jamaat.
We used to say our prayers at Akram Sahib's house on Fridays. We didn't have any facility for daily namaz, but we used to say Jummah at his house, and we often reflect on the blessings that flowed from that for his family.
Various community centres were used for prayers and other Jamaat activities, but the Jamaat always had a desire and a need for a prayer centre where all Jamaat members could gather for regular prayers and meetings.
In the early 90s, we started looking for our own place, and in 1994 we managed to locate an ambulance station that was for sale on Avenue Road Extension in Leicester, and we went and had a look at that place, and it seemed ideal.
When he purchased the mission house, as it was then, I remember remarking to him that surely, this is far too big for us. I think we were about less than a dozen families, and I said to him that it was much greater than we'd ever need, and he turned around to me and said that one day this mission house will be too small for us, and I looked at him rather bewildered, thinking, well, how can that be?
2 years later, the newly purchased site was blessed with the visit of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV.
We were very blessed in 1996, 13th of January 1996, when Khalifa Rabi Rahimullah came to Leicester for a question-answer session that was held at the mosque there.
It was a magical experience. It was an enchanting evening.
My father passed away that same year in November, and Mr. Salim Ahmed, who was the acting president for a couple of years before that, was the president after that in 1996. Mr. Salim Ahmed, he remained the president of Leicester for about 10 years until 2006. During that time, the Jamaat flourished. A huge number of families came to Leicester from other cities as well, and from other countries also, because this is the natural thing that happens when you have your own centre. In 2002, Leicester held the Majlis Khudam al-Ahmadiyya charity walk at Rutland Water, and it kind of put Leicester on the map also with regards to the rest of the UK, because obviously a lot of people from all over the UK visited Leicester during that time. In September 2006, about 8-9 months after I became president, we were appointed our first missionary. Maulana Ghulam Ahmad Khadim Saab came to Leicester. He was appointed the first missionary for Leicester also.
When we was using as a Salah Center in year 2006, the Tajneed was almost 170. By the grace of Allah, within this 8-9 years time, Jamaat has increased in this city, in Leicester city, and by the grace of Allah, our members, they are well united, and they always respect Nizam-e-Jamaat, and they have the deep love with the Khilafat Ahmadiyya, and this is the source and key of success.
We were looking for our own place, And we needed to find our own place because our numbers were increasing and the facilities were getting tighter.
Although it was a big hall, but it was not meeting our needs. All the time the ladies, there was a problem, and there was a little space for the ladies upstairs.
And the amount of space that previously was adequate for both men and women no longer became enough for women alone. And that shows you the extent of progress. I have to say everyone has made a fantastic effort in keeping things together through very difficult circumstances.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Ahmadi Muslims believe that serving the community is an integral and essential part of their faith. Members regularly take part in various activities nationally, regionally and locally, such as blood drives, homeless feeding, litter picking, tree planting and organising charity walks as well. Since the pandemic began, the members here in Leicester have taken an active part in helping and serving their local community. Masks and scrubs for NHS and care home workers have been made by members, and home-cooked meals have been delivered to NHS staff. Members have assisted their neighbours as well, providing them with essential food packs and assisting them with grocery shopping and medicine collection. As well as this, members have donated to the monthly food bag drives, and in the cold winter months, essential care kits for the homeless were distributed. All this was done through the generous donations of the local members of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, and many members volunteered their time for these tasks. Just last week, 118 curry starter packs with basic ingredients were put together and donated for our Cheap and Easy cooking campaign to tackle food poverty, helping to save money by learning to cook budget-friendly meals at home. These are just some of the ways our members have been doing their part during these challenging times.
Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that little clip down memory lane for members of the Leicester community. I should make it clear that the pictures of the community were taken before the COVID-19 pandemic. We have been careful to observe social distancing rules when the COVID-19 pandemic hit. So all those images were pre-COVID-19. You can download free books about the community if you wish. I'll give you the website address. You can log on to our website, and the vast majority of our publications are available free of charge. Only the hard copies are chargeable. Everything can be downloaded free. The address is www.alislam, which is alislam.org/books. So www.alislam.org/books. Thank you very much indeed. We resume with our speakers, and our next speaker is the Lord Lieutenant Michael Kapoor, OBE. Can I just check that the Lord Lieutenant is with us and joined on screen? Yes, I can see the Lord Lieutenant. Thank you very much indeed. Lord Lieutenant Kapoor is a leading Leicestershire businessman who remains a keen and active participant in promoting the city and the county that he made his home 35 years ago. He has over 2 decades of successful boardroom experience in both private and public sector organizations. He is a chartered accountant by profession, having had careers at KPMG and Ernst & Young before taking up a role as Group Finance Director in Industry. He's currently founder and director of Signum Corporate Communications, the chairman of the National Space Centre, and chairman of the Leicester City Football Club Community Trust. Commiserations from Thursday, I should add. Lord Lieutenant Kapoor has always been a strong advocate of public service and is a trustee of Warning Zone, the National Forest Company. In 2017, he received an OBE for services to science, technology, business and enterprise. And as Lord Lieutenant, he is very keen to promote volunteering, public duty and education as a means of social mobility. I saw that according to various posts on the internet, in the absence of a royal family member attending, the Lord Lieutenant takes their place where the royal family members would be seated. So from the royal box, can I please invite Lord Lieutenant to say a few words? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that kind introduction. Lord Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, and I should also reflect that two of my deputy lieutenants are in the room, Resham and Riaz, and it's also a pleasure to meet, albeit virtually for the first time, the new Vice-Chancellor of De Montfort University, Katie. Look forward to catching up with you soon. I'm delighted that you've invited me to come and spend some time with you this evening, and also I'm very grateful for all that the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association of Leicester does for the community locally. Now, we're here to consider how we can achieve lasting peace in the face of a global pandemic, and particularly as we begin to emerge from the restrictions that we've lived with for almost a year. Those restrictions, as you've seen from the press, have clearly caused some frustrations, and the important thing as they are lifted is that calm thought and unity remain two of the most important ingredients which we will have for successful long-term outcomes. Now, the unprecedented challenges presented to us over the past 12 months have seen much of our daily lives move online, and I found myself becoming more accustomed to virtual interactions such as this. I now actually hold myself out as a black belt in Zoom. However, I'm grateful that throughout the social distancing and periods of lockdown that we've had, we've at least been able to have the mechanisms of Zoom and other video conferencing facilities to be able to keep in touch with each other. Now, almost every day throughout this pandemic, I've had the privilege of learning of the sacrifices that people in this area are making to ensure that those who are most vulnerable get the help that they need. Across the county and the country, the NHS and other frontline workers, including care staff, social workers, teachers, supermarket workers and delivery drivers, as well as some of the volunteers that we've seen on the video clips this evening, have worked tirelessly to keep the country going through this most difficult of times. As Her Majesty's representative, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our local NHS staff, key workers, volunteers, and the untold army of people who have helped their fellow citizens. You've all been magnificent. Now, I remain optimistic that later this year will bring some respite from the difficulties we've faced for so long. And when that time comes, I look forward to being able to see you all again in person. For now, though, I hope you enjoy the rest of this evening. I'm certainly looking forward to hearing from our keynote speaker and spending the rest of this evening with you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Lord Lieutenant. Thank you once again for taking the time to address us this evening, and we hope that you will join us on future occasions. Thank you very much once again. Can I please now invite Mr. Harinder Singh from the Sikh faith community. Can I just check that Mr. Harinder Singh is live with us?
Yes. Sat Shri Akal.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Good evening to all participants, and a very special thanks to the wonderful Ahmadiyya community for organizing this wonderful event and for inviting me. Now, I've been told to speak about achieving inner peace in the face of a global pandemic from the Sikh perspective. So inner peace is that elusive treasure that everyone craves for, yet only a minuscule proportion of the population can truly say that they have achieved some form of inner peace. In Sikhism, the supreme inner peace is called Sahaj, or equilibrium, wherein the person is so attuned to the divine vibration that neither sorrow or joy affects that person. He or she accepts what is happening is in the overall game plan of the divine, which in turn is determined by our own karmic deeds. What we sow, so shall we reap. Guru Nanak says, Sukh Dukh is man ki birta, meaning happiness and joy is a result of our own perceptions. Our mind is our most valuable tool, but is embroiled in pursuing endless desires and attachments, that cause so much stress and sorrow. Our gurus say, "Oh, my mind, you are the embodiment of the divine light. Recognize your true worth." Faith promotes positivity and unleashes the feel-good endorphins in our brain that are so vital to combat depression. Not drugs, but faith. Acceptance is the most important ingredient required in times of sorrow or stress, and this can be achieved through faith. Through this pandemic, we have seen even the most advanced countries have been brought to the knees by an invisible virus. The negative ego in humans has created this false narrative of our own importance, and this ego leads to arguments and even wars. In reality, we are made of millions of atoms, 99% of which are empty spaces. And if we remove the empty spaces, we can compress the whole human race into the size of a sugar cube. That's how insignificant we are. We fail to realize the precision with which our world is revolving around the sun anti-clockwise at a speed of over 1400 kilometers an hour. And like clockwork, the rotation is completed in 365 days. Why is this happening? It is certainly a divine force at work. Planets are revolving around the sun, but if a planet moves away from the orbit, then it is lost forever. This is why we humans need to realize the value of faith in God. If we move out of the orbit of faith or dharma, which is righteous living, we contravene these laws and suffer mentally and physically. Guru Nanak, the founder of Sikhism, traveled far and wide all over United India, Iraq, Mecca, Medina, Ladakh, and Tibet, bringing the message of oneness of mankind. That is why he was so loved and revered by Hindus who called him their Guru. Muslims called him their Peer, and Buddhists revere him as reincarnation of Guru Rinpoche, who brought Buddhism to Tibet. The first thing Guru Nanak said on achieving enlightenment was, "There is no Hindu, there is no Muslim, there's only human beings." His divinely revealed Mool Mantra or root mantra begins with the numeral 1. There is but one God, one formless creator, and truth is God's name. Without fear, without enmity, he is self-existent, permeates every speck of creation, and was, is, and will forever remain. These are the attributes of the divine. And because we all emanate from the same divine light, then we also have inherited some of these attributes. But unfortunately, these have been clouded over by our vices. Just like the sun is always present, but it is often obliterated by cloud or fog. Similarly, the vices in our mind have hidden our divine attributes. Faith teaches oneness and love for all creatures and nature, to be benevolent towards the needy. The Sikh gurus gave us many principles for righteous living, but the three golden rules were Kirat Karo, meaning work hard and honestly, Naam Japo, meditate, pray and contemplate, and thirdly, Vanke Chako, meaning share your wealth with the needy. In order to bring inner peace, we must create an atmosphere of mutual love and respect for all communities, because all humans come from the same light. The Sikh gurus practice this concept by including the hymns of 26 Muslim, Sufi, and Hindu saints in our scriptures, the Guru Granth Sahib, who we revere as a living guru. This is unique in the history of mankind. Helping other humans is a vital part of all faiths, and it is happening during this pandemic. Many people and organizations have volunteered to help others. We have seen hundreds of thousands of people volunteering to help the NHS. Sikh voluntary organizations like Khalsa Aid have been working in disaster areas in UK and all over the world. Sikh temples, voluntary organizations have handed out millions of food parcels all over the world during this pandemic. And even before the pandemic, all Sikh temples provide free food to people of any caste, color, or religion. And that is part of our faith. This is what faith teaches us, not hate, but love. if we bring love for all beings and creatures within us and for the environment, then automatically we will find that inner peace. Our gurus tell us to focus on our inner self and not to slander or abuse others, as that causes our mind and body to be poisoned and become ill. How much joy there is when one gives without expectations. Selfless giving, which faiths teach us, gives tremendous peace of mind. Inner equilibrium happens through faith, not ritualistic faith, but spiritual faith. We need to come back to dharma or righteous living. This pandemic has shown us that faith-based education is necessary in order to inculcate virtues of compassion, humility, forgiveness, truth, benevolence, contentment, and love in our children. And as this will in turn, will lead to future generations growing up happier, cohesive citizens who will contribute positively to society. Thank you very much.
Mr. Harinder Singh, thank you very much indeed for that lovely address. That was really enjoyable. Thank you. I hope you'll forgive me. I didn't have the opportunity to introduce you, but if I can do that now, it's perhaps appropriate just to give an introduction to Mr. Harinder Singh, who's been an active member of the Sikh community for many years. He's the author of a number of children's books, and he has co-authored a play on the partition of India for Radio 4. We know that he's worked very closely with the St. Philip Centre, and I understand that you're currently working on a book at the moment, Harinder, is that right?
That's correct, yes. It's,
it's
called Treasury of Guru Nanak.
Sorry, it's called the?
Treasury of Guru Nanak.
The Treasury of Guru Nanak. Fantastic. Well,
and it's
thank you.
Illustrated by the very famous Singh twins. They are two wonderful ladies, MBE, and they have their artwork, which is based on miniature paintings.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much indeed. And please let us know when the book is published.
Thank you so much, Mr. Salim Ahmed. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. I've just got a few messages on the chat facility, if I can read those out. First of all, from Mr. Resham Singh Sandhu, he says, there's a message from Partap Singh Bajwa, I hope I pronounced his name correctly, Partap Singh Bajwa MP from Qadiana, Punjab, extends his greetings to all the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in Leicester. He remembers meeting us all when he visited our mosque a couple of years ago. And we also have a request for prayers from Riaz for Liverpool, and also a slight correction. Resham Singh Sandhu, I described him as Deputy Lord Lieutenant, but he is, of course, Deputy Lieutenant. Thank you very much indeed for that, Mr. Singh. Our next speaker is the Reverend Deborah Mina Shiwakwa Akue. Is that how you pronounce your name? My apologies if I mispronounced it, but is the Reverend Deborah Mina Shiwakwa Akue on the line, please?
That's it. For some few minutes, I felt like a gate crasher in a wedding feast. And because I said, at what point am I going to know? But I'm not actually fairly new to the Islamic community. Okay. And I'm not fairly new to the Hindu community, neither am I new to the Christian community. So I think I've also a very privileged person. My father was Muslim, and my brothers are still practicing Muslim. My children were raised by a Hindu family in East London, and were the first pioneers to actually campaign for peace and social justice in East London when things were not going very well. And so when I went to Cambridge to study my theology, we're in a Cambridge Theological Federation, my mentor was Muslim. So I'm actually grounded firm, and I feel privileged to be here. Peace, talking about inner peace during the pandemic, it actually makes me think in the Bible as a Christian that you see there's somewhere we promise peace, that I give you peace, the inner peace, not what the world gives us. But when I was looking at the narrative of the COVID pandemic, how it has changed our perspective as human beings and actually revealed our vulnerabilities in how we see each other and how we understand the word peace. And for me, as a Christian woman, the word peace, it has actually invoked a lot of emotions, and it has changed the narrative of actually receiving peace, but how my church, how I give peace to my community, my neighbors, how we look at each other and how we save others. I think the pandemic, in as much as it has closed down the churches, has closed down some of the community places, or maybe slowed us down, but it has allowed us to actually look really directly at each other and actually ask ourselves, who are we? And this, where are we going with? And it has actually also brought a lot of our accountability to nature and how we actually take things for granted, things like food, things like our wild animals and things like rivers, where now it's becoming really a profound that you find a lot of people, families walking. You'll find people bringing food for each other, neighbors actually longing to talk to each other when they never used to talk to each other. That, you see, it has challenged us to look at saying that we need each other. We have to be each other. We are a people created in this world, which I certainly say, Mr. Harinda said, if at all we are crushed together, we turn into just like really like an ice cube like this, just a small people. But so it is actually challenge our horizons, whether we are in whatever faith we're coming from. At the end of the day, we are all children of God. We are of flesh and blood. So the peace that is actually, I am talking to my community, and the peace which I'm reaching out to my neighbors is the peace that comes with the love and seeing everybody with the same eye of God. The love that we promised and that we should experience in difficult times. And you see, in the world of affliction, in the world sometimes of hatred, apart from the pandemic. You see, how we experience that peace, and he said, the Lord said, God said, we may have peace, but he didn't say that we're not going to have strife. And I think the inner peace comes from the understanding and the spiritual growth of us as human beings, or as brothers and sisters of this world, or as actually human beings. And how can we experience that, you see? And having true peace, it depends on our environment, on how we actually understand one another and respect each other and use the resources that is there. We have enough. And so I began, when I go to Asda, when I walk around, I'm beginning to see people with new eyes. I'm beginning to appreciate, actually, even if when people are masked, everybody's masked, but we have to use our inner hearts to see another human being and actually say, yeah, I think we need each other. And I am so sure that after the pandemic is gone, all faith people should continue to work together, actually to build a different world from the world which we're coming from, where there was so much comfort and so much wrestling and tug of war, and actually try to actually raise our children and build our communities with that inner peace. We need to understand one another that at the end of the day, the peace that I have is not for me to keep, but it's for they to share. Share each other the values of life, values of our faith, values of our release, and infuse it together and actually bring something, to the table so that we can be a better community. Leicester is a very rich community. It's got all its religious cultures. It's got in food, in faith, in everything else. But you see, really saying there. So people are panicking. And it is up to us faith leaders, university lecturers and head of, really see our Leicester Council to say, hey, we know, we understand. And when we say we understand, we're not saying it in word, but we're saying in action. And to go back from this, symposium to say, I've heard something different. What am I going to do about it? So I am actually so pleased to be here. I didn't prepare any speech, but just to say my little piece of talk, and maybe next time when I come, I'll prepare. And mind you, let me tell you, I was born in South Africa, and I'm a Zulu woman, and I grew up in Rhodesia. I came in UK 37 years ago. Then I moved to the United States. 2007, I was given the OB by Her Majesty the Queen, and I'm a writer, I'm a lawyer, I'm a magistrate, and now I'm a Methodist minister. So I'm coming with all those riches. Do they give me peace? Yes, maybe on my own, but they give me some kind of comfort. But the peace comes from when I am able to share, when I'm able to partake, and when I'm able to use those resources which God has given me to better somebody in my community, regardless where they come from, how they speak, how they dress, how they worship. We are brothers and sisters. So the peace that comes within is the peace that we should be preaching about. May God bless us all.
Thank you very much indeed, Reverend Deborah Mina Shiwakwa Akuwe. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Thank you very much indeed for...
Chidakwa is my great-grandfather's nickname, which means drunkard, I don't drink. And so he married 5 wives, so he used to brew African beer. So they called him Chidakwa, and it became a family name. And I didn't know I was going to come to England, so unfortunately I'm lumbered with it.
No, it's a lovely name. I saw on the internet that you've written a couple of books, The Forgotten Child of Zimbabwe and Out of Zimbabwe. So I hope that those of us who have had the privilege of hearing you this evening will also have the chance to read some of your writings. Thank you very much indeed, Reverend, for those lovely words, which I think no one could reasonably disagree with. Thank you very much indeed for your presentation and for joining us this evening. We're now going to have a short video of our mosque. And of course, what we would normally do is we would have a guided tour. And in the absence of that, we thought we'd show you a little video of our beautiful mosque and some of the steps that we are taking to ensure that everyone stays safe. I should say that the pictures of us being in a congregation are pre-COVID days. So if I can invite the technical team, please, to show us a video about our mosque, which is known as Beit al-Ikram, and it is at 95 Avenue Road Extension.
Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thanks for joining me in this segment where I take you through a virtual tour of our community's mosque in Leicester, Beit al-Ikram, meaning House of Honour, located on 95 Avenue Road Extension in Clarendon. The mosque plays a significant role in the life of every Muslim. Not only does it serve as a place of worship for the Muslim community, but also as a centre where the community gathers for meetings, enabling members to bond together and develop a sense of unity and brotherhood. Non-Muslim members of the community are also welcome to visit the mosque to find out about Islam and what the mosque entails. However, the current pandemic has not made it possible for certain activities to take place at the mosque. Hopefully in the nearby future, when everything is back to normal, we will resume full activities, God willing. Looking at the mosque from the outside, one striking feature which is common to almost every mosque is a tall tower called the minaret, which is a feature in Islamic architecture. In some countries, the minaret has a balcony where the caller for prayer, called the muadhin, will stand and call the Muslims to prayer. In some other places, the minaret might have speakers in them, where the voice of the muadhin can be heard by the Muslims to converge at the mosque for prayers. However, in the United Kingdom, we do not use speakers in the minaret, as this can disturb the neighbourhood. Now let's take you to the inside of the mosque. Nowadays, we're operating at reduced attendance level due to the pandemic. We have COVID-19 risk assessment in place, in line with the government regulations and guidelines. We also have a COVID-19 officer who ensures all the safety regulations are followed. During prayer times, we have people on duty to ensure all those attending are following COVID-19 risk assessment guidelines and following social distancing rules. All members in the vulnerable category or anyone showing symptoms of cold, flu, temperature, cough, or simply unwell are not allowed to attend the mosque. It is a must for anyone attending the mosque to have their face mask on, have in possession their own prayer mat and plastic carrier bag for their shoes before they're allowed inside to pray. At the entrance, temperatures are checked, hand sanitizer dispensed, and registration completed to support contact tracing and for risk management purposes. Social distancing protocols are also observed at all times. Bait al-Ikram was inaugurated on the 20th of February 2016 by the worldwide head of the Ahmadiyya community, His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, may Allah be his helper. There are many similar beautiful mosques of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community spread all over the UK. This mosque has many rooms or areas. First of all, we'll visit the main area of the mosque where prayers are said. We present ourselves in front of God Almighty during prayers, and this area is holy, therefore shoes are not allowed. That's why we have shoe racks there to take your shoes off before you enter this main area. In this current pandemic, members have to put their shoes in plastic carrier bags before they place them on the rack to prevent spread of germs or infections. Access to the toilets is nearby. However, these are only for emergencies in these current times, as members are requested to perform their purification at home before coming to the mosque. It is a requirement for every Muslim to purify themselves before they perform their prayers. This is what we call ablution or wudu. Now we're at the main mosque area. We have an entrance for the men and also entrance for the ladies, as we have separate praying areas for men and women. On this notice board, we have displayed all the COVID-19 risk assessment procedures which can be referred to at any time. As you can see, the inside of the mosque is demarcated, observing social distancing rule of 2 meters apart. We ensure the mosque is adequately heated so we can adjust the windows to allow ventilation during prayer times in this current pandemic. The inside of the mosque is plain and simple, with no pictures or paintings to distract people from their prayers. No music or drumming is allowed. There are few Arabic inscriptions on the ceiling. This one reads, Allah bizikrillahi tatma'innul qulub, meaning, surely it is the remembrance of Allah, thus the heart finds comfort. We have the clock here, which shows the various times of the 5 daily obligatory prayers, which are Fajr, performed at dawn before sunrise, Zuhr, the midday prayer, Asr, late part of the afternoon, Maghrib, just after sunset, and Isha, the night prayer. The time for the Friday prayer is also displayed. As you know, Friday is a special day for all Muslims, and on Friday a special prayer called Jummah is offered instead of the Zuhr prayer, where a sermon is delivered by the Imam, which forms part of the Jummah prayer. Prayer in congregation is emphasized in Islam. There is a saying of the Holy Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, that prayer in congregation carries 27 times blessings more than praying alone. The congregational prayer is led by the Imam, who stands in a special place in front called the Mihrab. Everyone else stands in rows, all facing the same direction as the Imam. All Muslims around the world pray by facing the Kaaba, which is in Mecca. It is a symbol of unity. There are no special places in the row reserved for anyone, rich or poor, short or tall. There is no preferential treatment. Those who have difficulty standing can pray by sitting on the chairs. Everyone must sit quietly and remember Allah in their head whilst waiting for the congregational prayer, and you must try not to walk in front of others when they're praying, so not to distract their concentration. Other etiquette to observe in the mosque area is the covering of head during prayers. The mosque should be kept clean at all times and treated with respect, and no eating or drinking is allowed in the main mosque area used for prayers. Nowadays, the mosque is cleaned and sanitized with pressure spray on a daily basis. As I mentioned before, there are other rooms in the mosque for other purposes. This is the mosque office, And here is the meeting room, which can also facilitate classes such as the teaching of the Holy Quran and other aspects of the religion. We have the library to sit and read various Islamic books, and where books and other literature can also be obtained for external guests. We have the kitchen where food is prepared during functions, and the main hall where most events take place. As the mosque is the community centre, we also have sports facilities such as table football and table tennis, where members can relax and enjoy a game of sports. However, all these extra activities I have mentioned are currently on hold due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In these current times, members immediately vacate the mosque when prayers are over. You are not allowed to interact with anyone else except those from your household, and members are not allowed to converge outside the mosque after prayers. I hope you have enjoyed the tour of the mosque. If you have not visited the mosque before, then please take the opportunity to visit when the COVID-19 pandemic is over. Thank you, God bless you, and please stay for the rest of the program.
Thank you very much indeed. I hope you found that interesting. As I say, we look forward to seeing all of our guests at the mosque on future occasions, God willing. We now come to our keynote speaker, who is Mr. Ibrahim Ikhlaf. He is the director or a director of the Outreach and Public Relations Department of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in the UK. He is based in London. Mr. Ibrahim Ikhlaf is a lecturer and teacher in Arabic at the Theological College of the community. He has studied Arabic and Islamic studies at universities in the Netherlands and Belgium, and he has also studied economics at London Kingston University. Can I please invite Mr. Ibrahim Ikhlaf to address us? Thank you.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اعلموا أنما الحياة الدنيا لعب ولهو وزينة وتفاخر بينكم وتكاثر في الأموال والأولاد كمثل غيث أعجب الكفار نباته ثم يهيج فتراه مصفرا ثم يكون حطاما. Know that the life of this world is only a sport and a pastime, and at the end, an adornment and a source of boasting among ourselves, and of rivalry in multiplying riches and children. This life is like the rain, the vegetation produced whereby rejoice the tillers. Then it dries up and you see it turn yellow. Then it becomes broken piece of straw. And in thereafter, there is nothing but punishment and forgiveness from God and his pleasure. And this life of this world is nothing but temporary enjoyment of deceitful things. All distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you who have accepted our invitation. Indeed, we are living in extremely dangerous times. Moreover, in addition to this, we are now suffering from another crisis, and that's the global pandemic COVID-19 and its consequences, which led to anxiety, as has been mentioned, unhappiness, depression, stress, feelings of isolation, loneliness, and financial losses. In other words, mental, financial, and psychological problems. However, I can tell you as far as Islam is concerned, Islam teaches us that inner peace, and that's the topic today, the theme. It is inner peace which leads to true happiness, tranquility, serenity, and peace of mind. This still can be achieved, irrelevant the difficult circumstances we are living in. It's true. No one should be misled by the fact that some people, we think sometimes the celebrities who possess wealth, or some people possess wealth, riches, and property as well, they live in pleasure, engrossed in their luxury and enjoyment. We think these people, many of them, or some of them, they are in peace. Some of these wealthy people appear sometimes, you see them on TV, etc., very happy, whether in Europe, in Arab world, or in India, Pakistan. They seem to be very happy, but only in the eyes of the world. Rather, only in the eyes of materialists and those taken by outward appearances. They are the ones who think that these people, some of them are really happy or wealthy. In reality, many of these materialistic people are drowned in grief. Read newspapers. Therefore, they cannot advance as we believe, as far as Islam is concerned, Judaism, Christianity, Hinduism, any other religion. They cannot advance really towards God. You need inner peace. Their eye is forever set on the world, and they themselves are inclined towards it and becoming materialistic. When they experience a loss in their wealth, or if contrary to their wishes, sometimes they fail to succeed in certain endeavor. Sometimes then they wander helplessly to and from court and cannot find peace of comfort, peace of mind, which is in reality the definite result of pleasure and satisfaction. We should remember a real spiritual person can find more happiness in a cottage, in a hut, than a materialistic person who is imprisoned sometimes in greed and avarice. He can, in reality, as I mentioned, a spiritual person can find more happiness in a hut than a materialistic person can ever find in a magnificent castle. Undoubtedly, at a personal level, peace is something we all desire, every one of us, and we discuss this. While at a broader level, it is something that different nations and communities claim to aspire towards. However, what is peace? And why do we need it? Today, I want just to discuss the inner peace, although there are two types of peace. There's outward peace and inner peace. Peace is a concept which differs among different schools of philosophies. Read the history. In various Oriental religions, we see different view about peace. For instance, according to the yogic peace, it has a different meaning. It only means, in this case, exercise or by delving deeper into our souls. Then a person will find himself without any agitation. The absence of agitation in man's desires is in this philosophical peace. A similar concept you find in Buddhism and same in other pantheistic or especially Chinese religions. In Islam and in reality, in the religions as Christianity, Judaism, we find peace is first to be addressed with one's desires and ambitions and having a balance which is an internal affair. And secondly, to have peace with the world around us and to assure everyone that one poses no threat of danger to them. No danger will emanate from me towards the other direction, in the other direction, towards others. It is this wider concept of peace which you'll find in major religions. In this concept of peace, no one is able to be at peace with himself until he's also at peace with his neighbor. This is the concept of peace we believe in Islam. Firstly, to be at peace with God. And secondly, to be at peace with oneself and with the rest of the world. The concept of peace in Islam is indeed very comprehensive. I try in 10, 15 minutes to explain everything in depth. Islam's concept of peace does not only mean to be at rest or to have a compromise of a perfect understanding with the rest of the world. It also means aslama yuslimu, means submission. It means peace. However, it means also in Arabic submission. According to the concept in the Holy Quran, as has been mentioned, the concept of peace, no peace on earth can ever be conceived, not to mention established by human effort. It cannot even be conceived theoretically without man finding God, the one who created him, the creator, without recognizing the hand of the creator, universally at work in nature. Submission to the will of God is for us the only means of attaining peace with God. And this is a declaration which is proven by human experience. Unless we do this, we believe we cannot get peace. So in Islam, the journey to peace begins with an attainment, with the attainment of peace with your Lord, the Creator. It reminds me myself, last year, March, I was among the first ones who got the COVID, and I had to enter the intensive care. And the doctors later, they called my wife and said, we saw him smiling. You see, the reason for smile is because we believe our lives are in the hands of God. If it's Allah's decree that I will survive, and I pray for that, we are all happy with this. If Allah decrees something else, then we are also happy with that. And that is the reality to have the inner peace. We must know who is God. And this in Islam cannot be achieved without delving deeper into ourselves. In reality, we must know what He is. And just trying to find God ourselves without His help is impossible, as we will be only delved in mistakes. If there is a God, then He should show Himself. If there is a God, He has to be an external reality and not just an internal reality. It is God who should prove Himself. If He's an external reality, then He must introduce Himself to us. And that is what actually happened in all divine religions, whether in Hinduism or Buddhism or in Islam, Judaism, Christianity. It was always God who revealed Himself to mankind. It was always the other direction, God towards man and not man towards God. Only when man becomes true, he will be able to find peace with himself. Otherwise, we believe he will claim to be something, while deep inside, he knows he's not that something. There will always be contradiction between man and his soul, as long as he's not true. So truth is the most important fundamental step, we believe, towards peace. And that is becoming like God. You cannot, because, of course, we cannot become God, but we can imitate God in all His good attributes. As I read, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the merciful, He's the loving one, the bestower of peace, the one who is merciful and compassionate. And we have to reflect these attributes. Now, when you become true yourself, only then we'll become true to our children, our wives. And so to our children, the husband, the wife, our relatives, and the society at large. Islam is a religion, we believe, it can bring you permanent happiness, not on a paper, but practical life, to the heart and to the soul, in spite of being frequently afflicted with suffering or calamity, one kind or another, hardships, disappointments, grief, or any other inconvenience. We believe that by following Islam practically, a religion based on love and peace and brotherhood and unity and justice, we can experience paradise on this earth. It's not an idle dream. For example, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the promised Messiah, peace be upon him, who was the founder of the Ahmadiyya, who is the founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, said, our paradise lies in our God. Our highest delight is in our God, for we have seen Him and found every beauty in Him. The jewel is worth purchasing, even if the price is one's whole self. We have been taught that the source of true and lasting happiness is knowledge and love of God, while the lawful pleasures of the world are in no way despised or condemned. However, these worldly matters, they can in no way fill the heart with that heavenly bliss, which results from deep attachment to God and from the cultivation of pure and noble habits. In our search for God, for heaven and paradise and peace and inner peace, especially in this world, on earth, the promised Messiah said, real and true happiness lies in the recognition of God. Life on this earth, we believe, is not final. It is a preparation ground for the life to come. Through righteous conduct, the right moral behavior, one can find paradise here on earth before he reaches the grave. Prosperous indeed is the person who finds it. There is no comparison between, of course, the heavenly contentment and the pleasure gained from this world. The Quran, as I mentioned, says, and the life of this world is only a pleasure and a sport. But indeed, the hereafter is better for you if you are pious. Will you then not understand? Then it says, O my people, the life of this world is but a temporary provision. The hereafter, which makes accountable. Belief in the hereafter makes us accountable for our deeds. Otherwise, there's no accountability. It is the hereafter is our permanent abode. The question maybe will arise among the audience. How can one find paradise and contentment in this world when one is perpetually burdened with afflictions and problems, suffering one kind or another? We should bear in mind that they are in reality blessings, these afflictions, in disguise. And that Allah clearly says in the Quran that He caused them in order to test and build one's faith. They offer opportunities for one to demonstrate the depth of one's faith and caliber of one's character. Furthermore, if one meets them with patience and fortitude, one gains the reward of God here and hereafter. The Quran, we believe, says, and we will try you with hunger, with fear, and loss of wealth, and lives, and fruits, sometimes the death of our own children. But we give you the glad tidings to those who are patient, who when a misfortune overtakes them, they say, surely to God we belong, and to Him shall we return. It is these people who are blessed. They are blessed by their Lord, and they have the mercy, and they are rightly guided. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, the founder of Islam, he said, for a spiritual person, life is full of good, and nobody but a true believer, a true spiritual person, will find him in that position. For if he meets with success, he is grateful and becomes the recipient or even of greater favors from God. On the other hand, if he suffers pain and tribulation, he endures it with patience and thus again makes himself deserving of God's favors. A well-known American writer has said that to have true inner peace, we should know that in every adversity there lies the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. That's to say, one can find and gain some advantage from every adversity. The American writer writes here, I'm thankful for the adversities which have crossed my pathway, for they have taught me tolerance, sympathy, self-control, perseverance, and some other virtues I might never have known. Inner peace is extremely important, the topic of today. That means that we should consciously avoid many of the dark moods. It's not only being peace. We should get rid of worry, being irritated, excitement, depression, despondency, irreverence, selfishness, revenge, pride, jealousy, mockery, envy, deceit, cruelty, suspicion, lust, dishonesty, rebellion, intolerance, backbiting, impatience, slander. All of these moods, whatever they are, they lead to a person, they bring a person to that level where he will be completely deprived of inner peace. I would like to recite a small poem, which is very relevant. And I will write to him who fights and vanquishes his sins, who struggles on through weary years against himself and wins. And again it is said, he who conquers himself is greater than he who conquers a city. Peace of mind is an inner condition. Many yearn, but few attain. And this is what has been mentioned by our Sikh brother. And he mentioned, few people attain this. True peace of mind engraves itself on the character of an individual. And you see that someone who has inner peace, it's reflected in his voice, carriage and movements of the body. The tranquil spirit is an attribute which can be developed and acquired by anyone who really desires to possess it. The person who has that peace of mind, it doesn't mean that he's indifferent to sorrows and distress of life. He's aware of them, but he accepts them in a calm and philosophical manner. And often an observer may fail to detect any sign of physical emotion. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the promised Messiah, peace be on him, the founder of the community, was very devoted to his firstborn daughter. Her name was Ismat. She fell ill, and he watched over her with great care and a love. But when she died, it appeared to the people as he forgot her completely. In reality, he resigned himself to the decree of God and accepted it. On another occasion, a false and malicious charge of murder was brought against him. Their malevolence knew no bounds. Normally, most men finding themselves under such circumstance would show clear symptoms of strain, fatigue, and worry. Yet the promised Messiah, he remained so cheerful, smiling, friendly, and composed that no one could imagine that such a heavy charge hung over his head. A well-known again and popular writer, published many plays, poetry, etc., wrote, a sacred burden in this life ye bear. Look on it, lift it, bear it solemnly, stand up and walk beneath it steadfastly, feel not for sorrow, falter not for sin, but up, onward, upward, till the goal you win. Inner peace is harassed constantly. We call it satanic germs. And the following I can tell to everyone, whether you are Muslim or non-Muslim, the following 6 negative influences are the most common and the most destructive. That is being irritated, jealousy, laziness, fear, pride, and extreme love. The purpose of creation was to create a consciousness. Whole life is based on being conscious, and ultimately to improve, widen, and enhance the quality of being conscious. The ultimate purpose of creation was to create a conscious being of the highest order who would not only voluntarily submit to the most consummate beauty of God, as reflected in his creation directly, but would also lead fellow creation of the highest order to this ultimate goal of creation. Hypothetically, in a hypothetical way, remove the ultimate object of creation for a while, and suddenly the entire raison d'etre for the creation and maintenance of this universe would collapse. In its simplified example, I give you an example. The reason for planting of a seedling and nurturing, irrigating, pruning, and maintenance, for example, of a fruit tree, is the fruit itself. That's why all this effort is there. If there was to be no fruit, there would be no tree. all the efforts in planting, nursing, maintaining this fruit tree without the concept of a fruit as the end product would be totally vain, meaningless. As such, the entire fruit, including the roots, stalk, stem, twigs, leaves, buds, virtually remain obliged to the fruit. Though proceeding in time, all parts of the tree remain obliged. Indeed, it's the beneficence of the purpose which creates the instrument of the creation itself. Think about it. Man is a micro-universe which has received influence from also forms of creation. Even the remote star has contributed to this micro-universe of man. But this relationship is not of a servant to his master, but that of a master to his servant. The masters do not bow, do not prostrate before those who serve them. Man, therefore, emerges as the master of the whole universe and the servant only the one who is the Lord and creator of the universe. The ultimate realization and the shaping of one's life to this goal, that is, in Islam, the ultimate peace, the inner peace and the outer peace. A phrase in the Holy Quran, which read always, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We belong to God and to him must we ultimately return. Few understand. The meaning of return here is of course not physical, but spiritual. It's not just a statement of fact, but a reminder of the purpose of our creation. Just as a salmon cannot find peace until it returns to the place of its origin. It's a beautiful example in nature. Its spawning ground, the human heart, cannot find peace without spiritually returning to its source of creation. As I mentioned, the salmon will never have peace until it returns to its spawning ground. Then the Holy Quran says, الذين آمنوا وتطمئن قلوبهم بذكر الله ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. Those who believe and whose hearts find peace in the remembrance of God, because it is only in the remembrance of God that hearts can find peace. Finally, man cannot live at peace with himself, nor can peace be vouchsafed for society without this formula. No other formula is working, can work, except this. That is what history shows. It's only the love for God which can bring about, as we believe, true respect for his creation. Irrelevant their race, color, background. The higher the order of creation, the need becomes to the creator, and the stronger the bond. Man begins to respect man with a higher and noble object, out of his respect and the obligation owed to his creator. That's why the Quran starts, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. All praise belongs to Allah, who is the Lord of all mankind. God provides for everyone, whether you're an Arab, or you are British, or you are American, or you are Chinese, or Indian, it does not matter. God is the Lord of everyone, irrespective their origin, their color, or background. He is our God for all of us. Then the vacuum, and this is very important, created by the non-existence of God. If we remove God here, then I can tell you that vacuum created by non-existence of God will be suddenly filled by man's ego. It's a very naive and extremely dangerous philosophy that we believe, I tell you again as Muslims, that people can live without God. We believe that denial of one universal God who unites all mankind and created them and provides them ultimately achieves not just death of one God, but it suddenly brings to life a myriad of gods. Every conscious being that exists suddenly acquires the role of God. Everyone becomes a god and makes himself a god. Ego, selfishness, and the total commitment to serve one's own end will only grow stronger and all-powerful. Societies which are built with the bricks of such concept always remain egoistic and self-oriented. This is what we believe. The Islamic philosophy, the same philosophy you find in Christianity, Judaism, and other religions. Without returning to God, one cannot attain peace. And without that peace, peace in society cannot be built. All human efforts to create peace from selfish, ulterior motives are bound to fail and come to nothing. If there is no God, there is no peace. That's the ultimate wisdom. Last and finally, our caliph, who is based in Tilford, whose name, as you're all aware of it, he's the fifth caliph, the fifth successor of the founder of the Ahmadiyya community, the promised Messiah, and the Imam Mahdi. His name of the fifth successor is His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad. He recently wrote 17 letters to the world leaders during this pandemic. I want to read something out from him, but before that, I just want to mention in the National Peace Symposium, which is held every year. Just during this pandemic, it was difficult last year. However, he mentioned the National Peace Symposium 2019, ultimately, to bring about peace, whether in Muslim nations or at a broader international level, it is necessary that at the very minimum, the demands of justice are fulfilled by governments so that all people are given their due rights and that selfish, vested interests give way to what is fair and right. Furthermore, international institutions, such as the United Nations, should treat each country equally rather than bend to the will of certain powers. This is the means of peace. This is the roadmap to a better world. The message to the world leaders, I can read something. A message to world leaders. He said, indisputably, COVID-19 has shaken the world's economy to its very core, and patently the coming weeks, months, and years ahead will be exceedingly hazardous and challenging. Indeed, most people do not yet fully appreciate how precarious the world will be just a few months from now. If history teaches us anything, it is that when governments selfishly prioritize their own national interests over and beyond the collective interest, the results are then invariably catastrophic. Inevitably, economic or trade wars occur that in turn foster hate and jealousy and ultimately lead to open warfare and bloody conflicts in which unimaginably destructive weapons are unleashed, obliterating all that is before them. Then, consequently, with all humility and sincerity, I urge you as the leader of you, I urge you as the leader of your nation to formulate policies that are based on justice so that the world may be saved from further misery and destruction. Thank you very much.
Mr. Ibrahim Clark, thank you very much indeed for that detailed and thought-provoking address. We're very grateful to you. Thank you very much indeed. Lastly, can I please ask our regional missionary who is based at our mosque, Mr. Zartash Latif, to offer a vote of thanks. Imam Latif is the regional Imam of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community for the East Midlands. He's a graduate of the Ahmadiyya Theological College UK and is responsible for all the religious ceremonies and functions in the two main East Midlands centres of Leicester and Coventry. So Imam Latif, please can you offer a vote of thanks, please?
Thank you, Salim Saib. I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to all the speakers, guests, and those who have joined us through the live stream. Thank you for taking your time out. This event would not have been possible without all of your cooperation and contribution. Hopefully, when the restrictions are lifted, we'll be able to meet each other in person. But as you know, that at the moment we are passing through a critical and dangerous period. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought the world to its knees and affected almost all nations and peoples. As a result, every person who feels the pain and suffering of humanity is driven with anxiety and restlessness. Therefore, I pray from the depth of my heart that may God Almighty bring an end to this great trial and affliction, so that mankind be saved from its violent and devastating effects. We, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, pledge that we are ever ready to assist and partake in every effort and action made for the sake of saving the world from ruin and for the sake of bringing humanity back towards its Creator. I pray that God Almighty blesses all endeavors for the sake of peace and prosperity of the world, and that the leaders and people of all religions work together in this noble cause, setting aside any differences of belief for the sake of human salvation. Certainly, this is and always will be the primary objective of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, and we are making every possible effort in this cause. I pray that God Almighty grant the world wisdom and understanding. Again, I would like to thank all of you for joining us today. We are grateful that you have joined us. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Imam Latif. Finally, it's customary for us to end all of our functions with a silent prayer. We normally do so by raising our hands. You are welcome to join us in any way that you wish, or you may prefer to spend a few moments in quiet contemplation. Can I please ask Mr. Ibrahim Ikhlaf to lead us into silent prayer, please?
Please join me in silent prayers. Allahumma ameen.
Exactly. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Ibrahim Ikhlaf. All that remains is for me to thank everyone for joining this event, whether it's by Zoom or on the YouTube channel. I hope you found it stimulating and enjoyable. We do hope to see you in person next year, and we look forward to the pleasure of your company when hopefully the world is much safer and human beings can go back to doing what they're programmed to do, which is to enjoy the company of other human beings. Can I please ask you, if you can spare a few moments, to fill out the feedback form. If you look in the chat section, you will find a link to the feedback form. We would be most grateful if you could take a few minutes to complete that, please. And in the meantime, I hope you and your families all stay safe and well. And until next time, may God be with you, and may God protect all of us. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. And that concludes the proceedings for today. God bless and good evening.
Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.